Well, today is day 2 of the Water Indaba, which kicked off yesterday under the theme Water Security and Provision at Gallagher Conference Centre. Resolving South Africa's water crisis is one of the priority tasks outlined by President Cyril Ramaphosa in his SONA. Let's cross to SABC News reporter Chriselda Lewis for more on the story. Chriselda, yesterday the President really emphasizing how chaotic and what a bad situation water is in. He held no punches yesterday. Perhaps talk to us about the responses to how he spoke about the situation.
Well, absolutely, Leanne. And you'd remember he touched on the National Infrastructure Fund, which has to date secured about 23 billion rand, Leanne, for 7 large water infrastructure projects. You know, of course, that phase 2 of the Lesotho Highlands water project has also resumed as work on the Umkomazi Dam. And preparations are also underway, according to the President, for the construction of the Ntabelanga Dam. That's on the Umzimvubu River. Now, there are quite a number of other water infrastructure projects that have been earmarked for blended financing through this infrastructure fund, such as the Podihadi Dam, which will feed 490 million cubic meters of water, we understand, a year from the Lesotho Highlands into the Vaal River system. So the issue of infrastructure, Leanne, is one of the main issues that was touched on. We've been hearing about aging infrastructure. That's an issue that also needs to be dealt with quite significantly. We've heard about construction mafias, water mafias as well. I'm going to talk about that in just about a moment. I'm joined now by Richard Meissner, who is a professor of political sciences at UNISA. Prof, thank you so much for your time this morning. Just before we went to air, you were telling me that the issue relating to water mafia is something that you already looked at or identified way back in 2013. So we're possibly looking at here billions that might have even been lost as a result of the corruption that is taking place within the sector.
Yes, I think that is true. We first discovered or learned of the water mafia when we conducted research with the CSIR research team in the Sekhukhune district municipality, where communities, the infrastructure, water and electricity infrastructure are deliberately damaged. That would create let's call it an informal water market, what we called it then, for people with boreholes and also the capacity to deliver water to community members. They would, for instance, at that time, they would sell a 210-litre drum of water for 50 rand, which is exorbitant. It's not only the communities in rural areas that suffer under the activities of the water mafia. It's also the agricultural industry. During that time, we also conducted interviews with farmers, and they complained about their borehole pumps being stolen, their pivot irrigation infrastructure being stolen, because that's it can be used for scrap metal, and the electricity supply, like the cables that supply electricity to their to the pumps. So it is not only a water service or water provision problem, it's also in the agricultural sector. I would say it's a problem which we know very little of.
Let's talk a bit about what the President touched on yesterday. For example, this fund, in particular looking at infrastructure and ensuring that a number of areas are worked on to ensure better water supply. Talk to us a bit about that, and to what extent will this alleviate some of the water provision challenges that South Africa faces?
Okay, let me start with the Umkomazi project. That project will deliver water, raw water, to the eThekwini area, actually that entire corridor, Pietermaritzburg, eThekwini. So that is very important to supply raw water security. So that will improve with that project. We know that eThekwini, they sit with, in many neighborhoods like Queensborough and Phoenix, they sit with water supply problems. And also let's touch on the Lesotho Highlands water project. There is, at this moment, there is enough water in the system. the canal or the transfer tunnel is maintained. It will end shortly. But the phase 2 of the Lesotho Islands Water Project will deliver additional water for Rand Water to then buy from the Department of Water and Sanitation, which it can then deliver to the municipalities within its service area.
All right, Prof, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us here on SABC News. Professor Richard Meissner, who is a professor of political sciences at the University of South Africa. Leanne, just talking to us about, some of the challenges that have been dissected, at this Water Indaba. We've heard extensively about, what the challenges are relating to infrastructure, but also massively corruption. Already back in 2013, the professor tells us that they've been looking at these water mafias, and this only doesn't talk about service delivery, how this affects service delivery, but it also affects other sectors like the agricultural sector. So you have a ripple effect of corruption relating to water, the supply of water, and how these mafias operate there, which then extends to other areas, including the agricultural sector.